Hey everyone, welcome to the Best in Events show. Today we're going to be talking about meetings and incentives and what we're seeing in the incentive side of the meeting and event world here for 2020. I am Shawn McBride, one of your hosts for the Best in Events show. My co-host Deirdra Watson will be joining us shortly as we get talking with our guests, Debbie and Rose. I'm going to give each of them an opportunity to introduce themselves, talk about how they've got involved in this world, and then we'll get into some questions which will hopefully help you as a meeting or event planner or somebody in the events world get a better feel of what's happening in the world and some tips and tricks and things you can use in your planning. So Debbie and Rose, I'm going to pop both of you up here on the screen here and give you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself and say hi.
Well, hi, I'm Debbie Arato, and I have had Arato Entertainment Events since 2001, so almost 20 years now. And my background has always been hospitality. Before I opened Arato, I worked in hotels, convention centers, and an entertainment and event planning company, and started my own business. And we have two divisions. We have an entertainment agency where we just provide entertainment for events. And we also have a full event management side where we do events from A to Z, including incentives. And of course, your holiday parties, your galas, your family events, any special occasion. I guess our niche is the special events. Rose?
My name's Rose Timmerman Gitzi, and my background is actually in psychology. I have a degree in psychology, and I love studying human behavior. And when I discovered that there was such a thing as industrial psychology, I was very excited. And I landed a job in the corporate world and started working, developing programs for employees and executives. And then I started developing events for the companies that I worked for, and eventually started working on building their event strategies. And then 16 years ago, I opened up my own business and worked on event production, and then now working on customized incentives.
Wonderful. And I know you two guys kind of have a unique story about how you met and started doing business together. So do you want to share with folks kind of how you decided or came together to combine forces?
Absolutely. We actually met through an association called CanSpec, which is the Canadian Society of Professional Event Planners. So it's an association of all people like us, independent meeting and event planners that come together to support one another on contracts. We share a lot of information. And Rose and I worked on a lot of events together through other planners, and realized that we had such a great chemistry and synergy. We started working on specific projects as a team. And we would go in as Arato Entertainment Events, RTG Special Events, and realize that we would, let's merge together. Go ahead, Rose.
Yeah, we just really decided that we enjoyed working together, and we started building programs together. So we went after clients together. And then as we started building our repertoire of customized events, Experiential Experts was born.
Wonderful. So, I think kind of the big, we do this channel, we do the Best in Events YouTube show, thinking about, people in the meetings industry and the events industry. And I think the big thing here in 2020 is it's always like, what is the state of affairs? So what are you guys seeing right now on the incentive side of things? What are people talking about? What are they actually doing? And what are they planning maybe for the second half of the year?
Well, what we're seeing right now in the industry is that there's a bit of a pause because of the pandemic. It's sort of forced people to stop and rethink how companies are delivering their incentives. This time has allowed companies to, as I said, take a step back, look at their event strategies. There's a shift, of course, to virtual. So everything online. So online gifting, private virtual concerts, awards, and taking those steps rather than the travel incentives to keep people engaged. Now, this is all great for the time being, but people are always going to want that face-to-face engagement. But for the current environment that we're in, we're seeing more of the high-end luxury gift experiences.
Yeah. And we also noticed virtual site inspections. Sorry, Deirdra. Obviously face-to-face site inspections are key because that's where the relationships are developed with the CSMs, DMCs, and it just makes our planning so much smoother once we have met and these people. So we are seeing virtual site inspections, and it works for now, but it's, for now.
Yeah, I started doing virtual site inspections years ago because clients wanting to do events in the US, and I'm not going to send you down there, so get it done virtual. What are some of the incentive destinations? What are you seeing that they're doing now to begin that opening process in, bringing people back to those destinations? Because we know that some of the destinations are just starting to open. And what are some of the policies that you're seeing them also put into place?
Well, first of all, they're staggering the opening. So we have some that have already opened, and they're going to be opening between now and August. We're going to be seeing, more and more reopening, and they're all really focused on health and safety and communicating that to us, the planners, their clients, so we know that they've put the proper safety regulations in place.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rose.
Yeah, there's a lot of clean certifications. So the properties are implementing a lot of those clean certifications, and one of them is the Crystal International Standards. So a lot of the properties are working on putting those standards in place, and they're starting now to promote and communicate those with planners, and that's kind of key, because that's going to help build that trust and confidence to have people travel.
You mentioned the clean certifications, and are you finding that overall the resort companies, I'm not talking about the Hiltons or the Marriotts, but the Sandals, Sapphires, Secrets, Streams, are you noticing that they're all trying to follow that same certification, or is it varied on different properties?
Well, there's a difference. So I'm not seeing that there's all of them following the same standards, but they are at least trying to follow what recommendations are being set forth by their local governments and World Health Organizations and World Health agencies. So the Crystal International Standards is just one. But most of them that are applying for those types of certifications, they are looking for ones that do have audits.
And so what do you recommend kind of on the logistics side? I mean, if you're on the planning side of this and you're looking to possibly do an event coming, what should you be asking for? I mean, I'm hearing a little bit about what the destinations are starting to do, but as the planner, I mean, what should you be asking for? What should you be looking into? What do you recommend?
Well, it's asking all the questions. Of course, it's negotiating, it's being flexible. Of course, cancellation policies and clauses are really changing now from before. And we find a lot of our partners are a lot more flexible, with cancellations. So if something is to happen, there won't be any penalties with many of them. It's just a matter of rebooking at a later date. They're offering, a lot more incentives and concessions for you to book now. So this is the best time to get better rates, room upgrades for your delegates, extra resort credits, spa credits. There's a lot of negotiating you can do right now, but it's really being educated and being in touch, constantly communicating with our partners, and not just the resorts, but the airlines, our DMCs on the ground. Rose, and
they're
more about that.
Yeah. So some of the travel barriers that we're going to be facing, the government policies, the corporate travel policies, those types of things are going to impact the logistics of how we start planning our events. So be aware of those when you're looking to regroup and start your incentive planning.
And we also tell our clients that's why they do hire us, is because we do the research. We do know the questions to ask. We're in constant communication, and Deirdra, you know this.
Yeah.
We are on top. We know the questions to ask about the safety, the sanitizing, in terms of check-in, food and beverage, room cleaning, housekeeping, the kids zones. Everything is changing, and it's going to, be like this from now on. And we need to just stay on top of what they are doing to relieve some of the stress and concerns our groups have.
Ladies, maybe you can speak to that in regards to the on-site. What are you seeing? What do you think you're going to see in regards to the arrival check-in procedures, the sanitation throughout the resort? That's going to be huge because you're able to go anywhere in the resort, and you could be there with 2,000 other people.
So
and it's quite different than, of course, being on a cruise ship,
right.
but a lot of your space is outdoors, especially for Caribbean incentives and the resorts. So what do you think that they're going to maybe implement, or you'll start to see?
Most of the properties have already started with those types of protocols, and they've communicated with infographics and things like that of what they're doing in terms of social distancing on the beach and by the pools and things like that. But Debbie, you can speak to maybe a little bit more about some of those details of how they're doing the check-ins and.
Yeah. Well, you're going to see obviously the plexiglass. Everybody's going to be gloved. Checkout will hopefully mostly be express checkout where they don't have to interact with the front desk. Food and beverage, people go to these resorts a lot of the times because of the all-inclusive and those massive buffets, and you can fill your plate as much as you want with all these different things. Whereas now it might be more limited. The staff will be serving you. There will be the plexiglass barriers. The plates, they'll be handing you the plates. The staff will be serving you versus you taking, yourself. And, maximum groups of 6 people in the restaurant at the dining tables, and they recommend you making a reservation so they can give you the space you need. Other tables will be distanced appropriately and will have minimum. There will be some order ahead where you can pre-order your food, as well as limited menus where you're served to the table versus the buffets. So I think that's really where food and beverage is going to go. And with housekeeping, and when you check in, there'll be something on your door that tells you that that room has been sanitized, and you'll receive your towels in a vacuum sealed pack, as well as every guest will receive the hand sanitizer, and you'll see hand sanitizer everywhere throughout the resort more, of course.
Yeah, and they're looking to disinfect the public areas on an hourly basis.
Wonderful. Okay, folks, we're streaming live on the Best in Events YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. Ring the bell so you get the notifications. Of course, like and share the videos with your friends so that we can get more people involved in the conversations. And we love your comments, by the way, so feel free to drop them throughout the show. One of the questions I think is, at some point we kind of switched from, all the changes to actually getting back to the real life travel. So if you're the planner that wants to get on the front end of things and really get ahead of planning and start thinking about bringing a group to an incentive event, what would you recommend a proactive person would be doing right now to plan for that next stage?
Make sure that you're in contact with the feet on the ground. Stay in touch with your DMCs, your CVBs, the properties. Don't believe everything that you hear in the news. It's really, really important to make sure that communication is happening direct with where you want to go and where you want to book. That's going to do a couple of things. It's going to help build the trust with the destination, and communicating that with your client is going to make sure that your client understands that there's a sense of confidence and trust between yourself and the client and the destination that you're booking.
Rose and Debbie, as a planner myself, and I also do incentives, and one of the things that, and I'm sure you can recommend, and I want you to speak to this as well, is if you're doing a group or an incentive program, hire somebody that has that knowledge of feet on the ground, who's been there before, because what you don't know is what you don't know. So do you want to speak a little bit to that, ladies, as well, so that people who are watching this program can understand the importance of hiring a professional who can work with the resort as well as the travel agencies?
Absolutely. So we definitely are the professionals in this field. And for Debbie and I with Experiential Experts, we customize everything that we do for our clients. So the experience from the time they arrive at the airport to the time they're in a taxi heading home after the incentive, it's a customized event. So our clients meeting with us, it's the best opportunity for them to really just kind of be hands off. And we're the ones that are meeting with the destinations, the properties. We get to know our groups, and the advantage we have is, I study that human behavior, right? So I'm getting to know that group from a behavioral standpoint, and we get to understand what is important to the client from a business standpoint and a behavioral standpoint. And then we'll design that program, understanding the cultural nuances of the destination that we're going to, and how our group needs to not necessarily behave, but what they need to understand. And we walk them through that process.
One of the things that we're seeing right now, and there was just an article released the other day, was some of the restaurants in Vegas are charging additional service fees, 4%. I'm sure, ladies, you both saw that. Do you think do you think that additional cost will be added on to the resorts because of their extra costs in doing business, extra supplies and things like that? I know that right now those costs aren't, because they're basing their figures already on pricing that was set like 2 years ago, because I know that they set their prices years in advance. But is that something you think we might see in the future, is additional costs in regards to the PPE and the sanitation?
They'll always find a way to put the cost in there. You might not see it all, right? But yeah, and Rose, I know you've been working directly with the tourism boards.
Yeah, so I think this is something that we're in uncharted waters, right? I mean, this is something that everybody is sort of floating around in. We don't know where we're going to land, and everyone is just sort of trying to survive. So I think it's something that people are experimenting with. But the bottom line is that our partners and planners and our clients, we all need to work together in order to make sure that everyone comes back and rallies successfully to bring back the economy.
And especially, in these destinations, sorry, Shawn, in these destinations, as we know, tourism is their main source of business, right?
Yeah.
And, the locals, they need, tourism is so important. And for the next year, we're going to see a lot of the incentives being kept, regionally, nationally versus international. And we've got to somehow work with our partners there so we can bring our clients and groups back safely. So just to help.
The status quo of how we did business before and how things were charged, that pricing model is going to change. It has to change.
Of course. Yeah.
So what we're seeing with a lot of U.S. destinations, because things are going to be a lot more regional, right? So, for example, the Hard Rock in Atlantic City, they are currently working on all-inclusive programs, which is not very typical for the U.S., right? They are working on various different levels of a all-inclusive package for groups so that they can tap into that market that is very regional, or will be very regional now for the next 18 months or so. And that kind of, rethinking how you're going to market your business to the incentive is what companies need to start looking at.
Yeah, I'd be really curious. What else are you seeing out there? I mean, obviously, we've hit on some of the high points and some things that we're seeing based on the experience of some of the other meeting and event people we've met with. But what else is out there that's behind the scenes that maybe people aren't thinking about, or just is brewing out there that people should be paying attention to now?
Well, an interesting one that's more on a government level is, maybe reducing the VAT. That's probably a more touchy subject, but if there were a way to reduce the VAT, that would incentivize people to go to those destinations.
And I think too, a lot of the incentives right now are being done virtually. We all know that people are adapting to the virtual world, and the incentives are online with the programs and the gifting, and I think that's just a temporary fix. And I know there will be some hybrid, moving on, but we're about face-to-face. That's what we do. We provide experiences for groups face-to-face. Our clients want to be live. And the virtual component right now, while it's a stepping stone, I don't think it's ever going to be a replacement for what they get when, they do their incentive programs. I mean, there's a lot of business done when they're together with an intimate group away.
And I think a lot of the properties and the destinations, they realize that. So what they're doing is they're offering those special incentives. So special group pricing, special concessions. And those are things that we're starting to see in some of the promotions that are coming out as the properties are starting to open.
Yeah, one of the things that one of the reasons we started Best in Events was last year, Shawn and I had done an interview on events and the future of events. And Sage did a survey of their attendees, and it basically said that what they wanted is they wanted face-to-face. So, and that's extremely important. I mean, through all of this COVID situation, what have we missed? Yes, we can do Zoom, but we're all getting zoomed out. Yes, we can do on the phone, but what people are missing is that face-to-face contact that, that we've all enjoyed in the past. And I think that in a way, what we've all been through will actually grow the conferences, but on a regional basis. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that, because I know that you're Canadian based like myself. What are you seeing in Canada in regards to what some of your clients are doing on the incentive side? Are they looking at Canadian resorts for their programs, or are they doing individual reward programs? What are you seeing here?
Yeah, sadly, some of our clients are skipping a year, right? And looking at 2021 now, later in the year. And just, it's the wait and see. Everything changes by the hour. And in the meantime, it's, we're trying to provide some of our groups with live experiences that are still socially distanced. So whether that's doing a drive-in for a corporate client in their parking lot where they're still seeing each other, but we're keeping it safe and staying within the guidelines. A lot more of the corporate gifting when they do the virtual conferences and sending those swag bags in advance, where you can still have all your branding and sponsorship opportunities. It's amazing what they have done and so quickly in the virtual world for meetings and events. But again, nothing's going to replace that holiday gala, online.
Yeah, we're having to be a little bit more creative now, because in Canada, and as we mentioned earlier, that everything is regional, and it's in Canada, but it's globally everywhere around the world. Everyone is things are opening up regionally, and that's where our clients are looking at hosting their incentives or being creative about their incentives. So when we're looking at designing an experience for our clients and their incentive programs, we're looking at being creative in designing something that is not necessarily virtual, but still taking into consideration the health and safety regulations. So as Debbie had mentioned, doing something that brings them together, but at a safe distance, but providing a unique experience that people can get excited about. And,
just to buy the time until they can.
Exactly.
Even trying to sell them on the Canadian destination. We are trying. And, I'm sure there's a lot of people we have a lot of great places in Canada that you can do an incentive, right? And do it well. So it's just changing their mindset from tropical to what we have here to offer. And there's a lot we have to offer.
So that kind of raises the next question, it's just, and that kind of looks to the future, right? I mean, can you change people's mindsets to go more regionally and other things? What are you guys doing to be proactive and to prepare for the future? How's your company preparing for this new reality?
Well, we're definitely working on the social distance experience. We're designing customized programs for our clients that we're currently selling that will give them that that engagement, but it's a little different than, you know, the door drop or a virtual Zoom meeting or something like that. So as things are starting to gradually open and we can do a little bit more, we're doing those experiences like Debbie, if you want to talk about the mobile DJ.
Yeah, we have a mobile DJ, and we just, you know, he's got a trailer that's decked out with a sound system, mic. We can do branding around it, wrap the trailer, and we just do drive-ins or drive-bys where we show up on somebody's doorstep, or, you know, just for some cheer and have a 30-minute dance party. So we've been working on that. You know, we have other experiences. You know, performers that, basically, we've reached out to all of our performers to say, how can you adapt to this virtual world, you know, or social distance world, where we can still provide, you know, the entertainment value and branding, because sponsorship opportunities and client branding is still so key that can't be lost. I have a performer who is a comedy juggler plate spinner. So it's branding the plates that we can send to everybody in advance. So you've got the client logo on it, interactive online, where you're teaching people to juggle, to, you know, it's just being more interactive and just trying to keep everybody happy and engaged and interactive and still connecting with other people during this.
If there's anyone in the audience that wants to comment or ask a question, you know, please do. Rose and Debbie, this has been a really great experience with you, and just want to get your final thoughts on, you know, what you are going through right now. What are you doing for yourselves? Because it's important to have that conversation as well. What are you doing for yourselves during this time of uncertainty? And, you know, a business aside, because we all have to have that I guess that wellness component. Mm-hmm. You know, as planners, we all know that we're in, I think, the 5th most stressful jobs. Ours were the first ones to cut, and they're probably going to be the last ones to come back. And
exactly.
I know in the Toronto area, and I'm considered part of the Toronto area where I live, they're just allowing hairdressers back this week. You know, not that I need a haircut, but, you know, you learn what you have to do. So, you know, looking at the future, we're at least, I'm going to say, you know, when we're in that final phase, it's not going to be till the fall, even if that. There's so many events even that I've seen for October. I had a gala in October that I canceled back in like, I think it was beginning of April. And we're doing a 25th anniversary celebration virtually, and then going back to our gala next year. But what are you doing on a personal level to get yourselves through this, because of how we've been affected through this? Because, you know, we've all gone through recession and whatnot, but this is totally different. So speak to that, would you please?
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm all about family, and I'm very fortunate that I have a 2-year-old grandbaby, and he's the light of my life. So I spend.
Keeps you very busy.
Yeah, he keeps me busy, and I love spending time with him. And he just he's a good distraction. So when I'm feeling kind of, you know, I just kind of want to spend time with him and just do playtime. You know, keeps you sane.
It's constantly learning too, and even though, you know, trying to stay sane personally throughout this, when you're home 24/7, it's, you know, constantly communicating. Like for me, CANSPEP has been, you know, an incredible support system, and just having, you know, the other planners, knowing that we're not alone. You know, this was pretty devastating to all of us, and you can sink into a hole pretty easily. And having other planners and industry people and partners that really know what you're going through and can be your support system. So for me, family, my daughter, Sam, You know, being home and spending more family time is great, but having that community support with people who really understand has been, you know, that's been life-saving for over the last few months for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I agree that the people that I'm connected with in the industry, and also the people that I've met through co-hosting this show with Shawn, are people that I probably would not have been connected to before.
Well, you know,
And
so busy, you know,
Yeah.
you've been so busy and it's all online and everything is email. We lost that personal connection. And I really think the last few months has gotten everybody to pick up a phone and, you know, Zoom's been out for a long time, but I don't think I did a Zoom call until 3 months ago.
That's right. Yeah.
Even family. I have family all over the States. We didn't even have weekly family calls, and now we're having weekly family Zoom calls. You know, I've talked to my cousins who are in San Francisco more in the last 3 months than I have in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that's been great, but it's trying to keep busy and just those connections. And it's just amazing how this has made everybody come out of their comfort zone and the busy, you know, 12-hour, 16-hour days on the computer. And now everybody's talking to each other. And as you said, Deirdre, meeting people you wouldn't normally have met, you know, otherwise.
Like
I think the biggest, sorry, go ahead, Rose.
It is stressful because Debbie and I are entrepreneurs, right?
Mhm.
And as entrepreneurs in this environment, it's scary.
We have
right?
no revenue, right? It's scary.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear ya. I'm an entrepreneur too, so
Yeah.
Right.
you know.
So having these opportunities to talk and share and, you know, get the word out there about what everyone's doing and how they're coping is wonderful. So we really appreciate the opportunity to be on here and talk about it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, one of the biggest things is connecting with people, and I love the fact that everybody is collaborating and sharing.
Yes.
You know,
Mhm.
and we're not. It's not about the competition, but it's about the collaboration. And that's one of the you know, we have all started a conversation. And when we are able to see each other in face, we can, oh, hey, how you doing, right?
Yep.
So it also builds that camaraderie.
And it's also a new skill set. I mean, a lot of senior and experienced planners out there have done webinars and live webcasting, but this virtual world is new for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So you see a lot of the planners out there learning a completely new skill set and getting experience in something else now that is only going to help them moving forward and help our clients, right?
Exactly. That's right. And you're able to, I'm having Zoom calls with clients instead of being on the phone with them, because I think that, as you said, Rose, it's that people connection, and it's that psychology behind being human. And when you can see someone's face, you can see their reactions, you can gauge what you're talking about based on their facial reactions. You cannot do that over the phone because it's all tonality. You cannot do it when you're texting because it's all tonality. So, one reason I do like the Zoom platform or online platforms is because you do get to see someone's facial expressions. And who knew, 35, 40 years ago when, what was it, the Schwarzenegger movie that everything was virtual?
Right.
Right. That we'd all be in that situation now. Right. Yeah.
There's only so much virtual stuff that we can do, because the reality is that it's a substitution, and it's not going to replace ever face to face. It'll
Totally
pacify.
agree.
It'll
And honestly, doing virtual gives me personally a reason to get dressed, and even though you can wear your comfy bottoms down there because you can see the upper half, but it still gives you a reason to get up in the morning. It gives you a reason to, when this first hit, I went into a really bad depression, like one event after the next, after the next, after the next,
Exactly.
being canceled. And then, March, April, May, June. Now you're having events canceled right up until September.
Yep.
And for planners, the conference season, the holiday season, I'm already thinking about with Rose, like what's going to happen to our big holiday galas? How do you take that and do it virtually? How do you take, something that doesn't have any business? It's not an auction. It's not meetings. It is strictly a social gala. So we're looking at trying to find ways to still provide these events, and so
And how to integrate them so that
Yeah.
you do have that interaction, but at a safe distance.
Well, and
Yeah.
events like that, considering the fact that all those social events for corporate, there's no ROI tied to them.
that's right.
And so those internal events will be, and I hate to say it, a lot of them will be cut, because so many companies are reassessing their way of doing business, plus even their corporate real estate, because they know that people can work at home, but by having those social engagements will also bring their external employees back into the office.
But what we have to educate them on is skipping a year for your incentive program, which is what people work so hard
Yeah.
to get to, or any of your incentive programs, whether it's a destination or it's something they do internally. If you lose those incentive programs and skip a year,
People are less engaged.
yeah,
And less motivated.
Yeah.
Because here they worked that very hard, and all of a sudden they're having something taken away. So companies have to pivot on how they're going to reward their employees. If they were doing a large incentive program, now they have to bring that together on the individual aspect.
I wanted to bring Janet's comment in here, which I think is on point and helpful, which is, it's causing people to grow in knowledge, right? We have to come up with new ways to do this. This is a time for testing new things and figuring out ways. Like you say, Deirdra, right? There's something that needs to be replaced, and we need to find a way to replace it, right? Because it's not the same experience. It's not, and delaying a year is probably not your best answer. So there's got to be a new way to think about it, whatever that might be. And I think that's interesting. So love the viewer comments. Always, people, make sure you always feel free to drop comments during our live show or afterwards, because we do respond back to them if you drop them after the fact. So let us know what you're thinking here at the Best in Events show. Debbie and Rose, what do you think about the innovation piece that Janet kind of points to here, is thinking in new ways? What does that mean to you, and what do you see that might be developing in the future?
Well, Deirdra just touched on something when she was talking about ROI, and I think that's extremely interesting, because we're seeing yet another shift, and it's less about ROI and more about ROE. So we're hearing a lot of rumblings about ROE, and that ROE is return on emotion, right? Oh, and again, I've got that psych hat on, right? So I'm looking at things from a different perspective, and that emotional investment is where a lot of companies and a lot of individuals are going after now, right? So they want to know that emotional investment is going to build brand loyalty. It's going to build those relationships. So at Experiential Experts, we're about the return on experience.
I love it.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying for here too with the channel. So folks, make sure you drop your comments below. Of course, subscribe to Best in Events, ring the bell for notifications so you can join us live for other events, or check out some of our old videos and drop some comments. Debbie and Rose, you guys are certainly experts in this, and you have the inside knowledge. How do people connect with you more and learn more about what you guys are doing?
You can certainly shoot us an email, Debbie at experientialexperts.com or Rose at experientialexperts.com, or visit us at our website, www.experientialexperts.com.
That's right.
Wonderful. You've been fantastic guests. We're glad you've joined us, everybody. Drop your comments. Let us know what you learned from today's show, what you'll be doing differently. Any questions you have for Debbie, just go ahead and drop them all at the Best in Events show here on YouTube. And we'll see you again for another episode soon. Debbie and Rose, thanks for being just such fantastic guests and giving us such great information.
Thank you, Shawn.
Thank you.
Deirdra.
It's a pleasure.
click the button there.